Okay.
Okay, welcome.
Bruce.
Liz, are you going to introduce the topic?
So I will introduce Barbara.
Oh no, Barb, right, sorry.
Who is in charge of our Spotlight on Ministry.
Yes, well, it was time to talk about the acolytes and what they do, and time to talk about lectors and how they become lectors, and most especially about lay Eucharistic ministers. And when I was talking with Diane about the lay Eucharistic ministers, she reminded me, since I'm not one, that there are rules and training and so forth that go into it that need some updating. And so Robin is going to be talking about the new approach to lectors and lems, as we call them. And Tammy is going to tell us all about being an acolyte. And we'll have the Bennetts talking about Christopher's experience, which is wonderful. And then Marilyn and Diane will also speak to their experiences in both lectors and lay Eucharistic ministers. So Tammy, I guess you're first on the list. Please and thank you.
Hi, Tammy.
Hi guys, how are you? Good to see you all.
Yeah.
Good to see you. First of all, Don does a lot of the major training with the kids and adults. He's kind of our go-to guy as far as technicalities and protocol. I knew nothing about this when I came into it, nothing, and I've learned a lot. I think the scariest time was when I was serving during Robin's ordination here in the church with the bishop. I was incredibly nervous. I can't remember a time as an adult I've been that nervous. But I think this ministry is amazing for the kids. It gives them a purpose. It gives them something to look forward to. And they're on stage for the entire congregation. And it really, even though we have some mishaps and some, trips and falls, that's all part of it. And the kids are they're amazing. I would be scared. I don't even know if I would recognize them now after 1 year. Some of them are just huge, right? These guys grow up so fast. We have to keep changing the albs out because I look down and it's above their knees after, in about 3 months. We have a lot of fun up there. We're very serious, but there's a lot of comedy that goes on behind the scenes. If you'll see, sometimes there will be some gentle reminders to be reverent. I had to tell them what that word meant a couple of times. You don't put 3 middle school boys together and not expect some chaos to happen. You just don't. I really would like to encourage adults to get involved as well. I think that it's a really great way to give back to the community. One of this is a bit of comedy for you. So, Liz can tell you, this is the censures we have that tied the albs up. But unintended consequences of a middle school boy for 1 hour sitting up there. We have a lot of these that are like this now, that we tied them all back up. But this is just one of the things that happens up there. And it's used as a weapon. You might see this going down the aisle or whatever. We also, the kids get really nervous about doing certain things. So I remind them of a story when we had a visiting clergy here, and I just started, and I was really nervous trying to help the kids, and I took the wine and poured it on the visiting clergy's hands. And so I tell the kids, you can't mess up any worse than I did, so don't worry about it. But that's funny. It's a lot of fun, and it gives the kids an incredible sense of pride. So it's a lot of fun.
Definitely.
Anybody have any questions?
I have a question.
how do they sign up, or what is the commitment that they make? And is it every Sunday for a certain period of time, or is there a group and you alternate, or how does that work?
Super good question. Liz helped me in the beginning and helped. We do a schedule. We kind of work around the kids' schedules, back, if you can remember, back when there were activities that kids were involved in. We kind of worked around the sports schedules or, any group activities the kids might have been involved in. It's usually once a month. I mean, sometimes kids like to do it, more frequently. The way we sign up is you can either come to Robin, Dawn, myself, and we'll get the kids in training. I wish, like everyone else, I wish I had a timeline when we'll be back in here doing this, but right now we don't. So hopefully, I guess my biggest concern right now is how many kids will still be interested to do it. I think that'll be a concern. I really would like to see more adults help out. I think it would be, I know I've said that before, but it would be awesome to see that. I know we have Mrs. Joy is helping now. She used to be an acolyte when she was a kid, and she was almost giddy when she got to come out the first time and do it. She goes, this is so much fun. So.
I can tell a quick story when my great-granddaughter Athena visits every year from Washington, and she wanted to be an acolyte, and she's only here for a couple weeks. And Vanessa said, oh yeah, sure, let her. So she got, how she learned was me pulling her by her neck, this way, that way, here. And then when it was time for our Father's prayer, she took her bulletin and like a Frisbee, gave it a toss behind her. And people in the back saw her, were kind of laughing, but she was so serious because she wanted to do everything so right. But it brought her great pride, as you said, Tammy. And she was baptized at St. Mary's. And as some of you know, I had custody of her for several years. And so it just every time we come back and she goes to BBS, and St. Mary's is just a special place for her. And those couple weeks that she got to be an acolyte really meant the world to her.
That's cool.
Yeah,
I
well,
think
so sweet.
you alluded to sometimes people are going in the wrong direction, and the only thing you can get a hold of is an alb. And I know to some out there it might look terrible, but it's really just a redirection, and it's just convenience to grab the alb or back here. But it is what it is.
Yeah.
Especially when there's burning candles.
Yes, that's how I pitch becoming an acolyte. Is you get to carry money, you get to carry fire around, and you get. The boys love to blow the wax on each other. Don't know what that's about. If you look at the back of the church where we come in and we're waiting, if you look down next time you're here, there's big blobs of wax down there, and that's exactly how it gets there. Just in case you want to know.
Now we know.
Yeah.
That's great.
The secrets
I always
are
think
out.
I always think it's interesting that it's usually the youngest acolytes that we trust with the fire. And there's something that's just really fun about that. I think the kids understand that they're being entrusted with something dangerous, and that's not usually what they get to do. So it's pretty neat.
I don't know.
I think there's a couple of burn marks back there too. So, we're just one little accident away from a catastrophe. So it's a little, it can be a little stressful sometimes, but I love it. It's a lot of fun.
So Barbara, I'm supposed to speak for Christopher. Could I do
He's
that
working
now?
today.
Oh,
Well, Christopher wanted to be a part of this and talk about his experience and how he got involved in it. When he got rehired at the Meritage Hotel last week, he decided that was critical. And so there's no problem. He'll just have Dad do it. And he sent me a audio file with a 15-minute lecture and a few pictures of his life as an acolyte. And I decided, first of all, I can't figure out how to make the audio file work, but I also don't know that we need 15 minutes of it either. What we do need is a recollection from Christopher as to what he's done in his life in relation to the acolytes. And so I start my visual aids, because I don't know how to put a picture up on Zoom, is Marilee, and she's going to hold up Christopher now with Robin.
Aw.
And you all see that.
Great.
And he is so very, very proud of the service that he does when he gets the opportunity to do it. The next picture goes back for Christopher. Get that?
As you said, the youngest hold the fire.
Yeah. This is Christopher in his first year acolyting in Riverside about, 30 years ago.
28.
And some of his very
yeah.
best friends joining him there on that. He has thought of acolyte as his entree into involvement in the parish and in the diocese. And he's very, very proud of the work he's done. He did go to the diocese. Can you all see that? And was I don't know if they call it confirmed or whatever, but anyway, became a legitimate acolyte with a badge that he wears every time he gets the chance. And the bishop, he got,
This one.
yeah, show this. Here he is with the bishop, and she's blessing him in his service as an acolyte training.
May I jump in just quickly? Because I
Yes, please.
photo. That was at the diocese convention last year when we were all together, and he was giving her the communion wafers and other things. So he was helping her in the actual.
That's right.
And it
Yeah.
He's very right from
Very moving.
them too.
It's very meaningful for Christopher to be a part of that program. And starting as an acolyte as a child, he's now 38 and would still do it at a chance he'd get for it. It's a great entree and experience to get kids involved. And as they grow and age, they get involved in other elements of it.
Yeah, reading.
The youth group, reading, the lay readers. Christopher is now lay reading and doing a nice job of that every chance he gets. I don't know what his job is going to do with his timing as far as being involved on Sundays, but right now he's trying to do it all. So
Yeah. And in the past, when he was working for the Meritage, they let him have Sundays off. And at the very least, he doesn't start until 11. So maybe they let him come at 12 instead and move him back an hour. We'll see, but the time has not come yet.
So anyway, the bottom line of Christopher's presentation is that he has loved being an acolyte. He's loved it in all the various churches that he's been at. When we go back to Washington, D.C. to see his brother and their family, he becomes an acolyte in St. Patrick's Episcopal Church in the District of Columbia. And they welcome him in, and he just becomes part of the family there. So it's been a wonderful experience, but it's a great opportunity for we as parents to get our kids interested in going to church and doing something fun. And as Tammy said, doing a lot of fun little things in the process. So
Thank you.
that's it for Christopher's presentation, unless you have any questions.
Thank you so much.
Great. All right, Robin.
He's not going to be happy that I haven't given the entire 15
Yeah,
minutes.
don't tell.
So don't tell him.
Tell him you saw the pictures.
Your secret's safe with us. We won't.
No, it's not. You're recording this. You can bet he'll see it before dinner
Hello.
time.
He watches everything. It's okay.
Thank you. Thank you both. And we're so thankful for Christopher's ministry as well. In fact, he was a reader this morning at the 8 o'clock service.
Yes.
Right.
Well, we're just so grateful that the leadership at St. Mary's, be it Robin or Vanessa, or all the way back to Stephen Carpenter, have been very inclusive and welcoming to Christopher.
Yeah. It took Stephen a little while to kind of figure out that it was okay, and then went on from there. So that was good.
Thank you. Yeah. Well, one of the fun things about lumping these three ministries together in one talk is really thinking about the way in which in ordinary times, the way in which there are many different roles that lay people take on in supporting the service. And of course, now we have the extra role of tech support, which Tammy and Julia were doing this morning.
Thank you.
Yes, and that will continue, because we will continue to broadcast our services live streamed while once we're able to regather as well. So that's another worship ministry that will be added in and continuing too. But for the ministry of the lectors, of course, that has been ongoing throughout the pandemic, and we've made it safer by pre-recording. I'm sure you noticed that it's impossible to zap people in that quickly.
Yeah.
So
cool.
So those pieces we pre-record, and I finally learned to change the color of the hanging to match the color of the day when we're doing the pre-recording as well. But folks come in and we set aside a day and we space them out, so there's time between to air out the building, and we pre-record those. So previously, so what we'd like to do, Barb mentioned the kind of new ideas that we have going forward of what we'd like to do. We'd love to welcome new lectors and lay Eucharistic ministers into the fold of people that are feeling called to that ministry. And what's involved for being a lector is we're going to have a training for anyone that's new, and then we'll offer that too for people that have that are already lectors if they would like to participate in it. Of really thinking about how it is that we read, and what's really neat about reading is that you're actually interpreting the scripture as you're reading it, and a different person reading it, the people hearing might hear something completely different coming out of that scripture. You get to interpret the tone of voice, the pauses, all of those things that really kind of bring scripture to life in new ways. So we'll talk about that in the training, and I'm not sure what specific, because the lector ministry is a public ministry and not involved with managing children and other things like that. I don't think that the Safe Church training is required for lectors, but I'm gonna make sure, check into that and see if that is the case or not. But for lay Eucharistic ministers, there is a little more training required, and that is the Safe Church training, which is part of the way that we keep folks safe in our community, not just children, but also vulnerable adults. And part of it is really just thinking about the way in which we engage. So we don't, we have pastoral care volunteers, as well as the lay Eucharistic ministers who, when we're meeting in person, who serve here in the sanctuary. And then we have lay Eucharistic visitors who meet with people and take them communion individually. And when that happens, people are not meeting just two individuals alone in a room. There's always either another person there or they're in a public place. So that's some of the training that goes into to Safe Church, as well as spotting when someone might be in danger or a situation might be unsafe. So it's really a great training, and I've used it in my own life. It's been really helpful. So that's one of the trainings. But then the other thing that we'd really love to do for our returning lay Eucharistic ministers, as well as new folks once we're meeting it in person again, is to do a little bit of training around the Eucharistic prayer itself and the theology of the Eucharist, the different pieces of the prayer and how those fit together, and have people share some of their own experience of giving communion, because it can be a very, very deeply spiritually moving experience to offer someone the body and blood of Christ. So that's just kind of an overview of the requirements that we're going to have in place going forward, or the trainings that'll be available. And those ministries, again, are open to people who feel called to do that ministry, and we'll do everything that we can to support you if you need help in terms of feeling more comfortable or learning whatever it is that you need to learn. So that's all I've got for my introduction. Barb, if you wanna introduce our speakers.
Right, Diane, do you want to speak particularly on being a lector, or whatever you wish?
Well, I kind of thought more, and I apologize if my volume goes out because my internet comes in and out. So hopefully it'll stay with me. I thought more about talking about a lay Eucharistic minister, actually. Being a lector is an honor, fairly straightforward. I try and read the stuff before I go up there, so there's no surprises like in pronouncing names and things like that, or what I might be talking about. But being a lay Eucharistic minister, to me, the Eucharist is such a sacred part of the service, of our liturgy, that I'm quite humbled by being allowed to do it. And before I go up there, or before I started administering it, I always try and say a thank you prayer to God for letting me do it. And it's just very meaningful for me to do that part of the service. While you're actually doing it, you don't really have time to think about it, because you're just waiting for the next person. And also, even though I've been a chalice bearer for like 25 years, I always panic that I'm going to forget and say the wrong thing. It's like, oh my God, what do I say? What do I say? But it usually turns out all right. Funny things
I do
happen.
the same thing, Diane. So
Me too.
And funny things happen up there. And oh, by the way, I became an acolyte when I was 31 years old, so there's plenty of room for adults up there. But funny things do happen when you're up on the altar, being a chalice bearer. You don't know what's going to happen. I had a woman one day who was dipping her wafer in, and she put it in too far, and she got some wine on her fingers. So she grabbed the cloth off my wrist and used it like a towel, and then kind of threw it down. And it was like, oh my God, what do you do now? And so it's a wonderful thing to do. I just am honored to be part of that part of the service. And as anything in life, there's ups and downs and all kinds of things that happen.
At one time when I was serving, a lady had her hands folded down for me to put the wafer in. And when I did, because the fans were going up there, the fan came around and blew the wafer off. And I was just, oh no. And I found out after, it's okay, just pick it up and put it on the corporal on the altar. But oh my gosh, you just, things that do happen. You're like, it is a very sacred, very sacred. I've even almost cried or did cry. I had tears with serving.
Well, Marilyn, I can top that. One of my first chances at passing the cup, I was at the altar, and I dropped the tray, the wafers, maybe 25 or 30 wafers there on the floor at the altar. And I looked at the priest and he said, we're going to just eat them all. Yeah. So we sat there and shoved 25 wafers in our mouths and started over on the communion itself.
Yep.
But there's a million opportunities for crazy things to happen.
Yes.
Yeah, when you're serving, the baubles, the little baubles that happen are a total change. I was a lem for well over 25, I guess about 25 years. And the one comment about lectors reading ahead of time, when I was in Pittsburgh, the priest there would call me up to do the reading if the lector schedule didn't show up. And for some reason, almost every time the reading I would have to do had some of the unpronounceable names that you are only there one time in scripture. And after the fourth time that happened, I said, no, do not ever call me up to read cold again.
Well, Nancy Hansen, who is now up in Washington State, was serving communion, and I was at the rail. And I guess I had a cold, so I wanted the wafer dipped. And I bit her finger.
Oh, no.
we still laugh over it. You know, it wasn't hard, but still it was. So you never know what's going to happen.
That's right. It's crazy. But I do want to thank all of you that have taken a leadership role in getting these things to happen, whether it's Diana, the lay readers, or the acolytes and all the supervision they require. I really congratulate you for doing that. It's a great mission.
And don't worry, Barbara and I in the choir back you up when their kids are up there and they misbehave.
We see it all.
Yes, we do.
So I want to go back to something that Marilyn was saying. You were starting to say about how moving you find the experience from time to time, Marilyn. Could you say a little more about that?
Well, sometimes if it's someone that comes up, an individual who lost her husband and hadn't been in church for a couple of weeks, then she comes up, and I just know how difficult that must be for her. And I will always touch her shoulder, and it does make me cry, because I know how meaningful for them to receive communion, to be at the rail. And I just want that added human touch. I just think that brings so much meaning to individuals, and we are family. Knowing that whenever I can serve at Easter or at Christmas, special holidays, I just feel so blessed, and I feel so privileged that I've been asked to serve, and I feel so much closer that really Jesus, I know he's always with me, but there's times when I know he's really right there with me. And
As Diane says, it's a real honor and a privilege to be able to do that.
yes, it is. It is. And I, until I guess I have to use the walker, I hope I can still serve. I just feel it's so the same as going out as a Eucharistic visitor. When I had the grandkids, I couldn't go out because I had to watch them or take them home. But once I no longer had custody of them, I was able to be a visitor. And that in itself, when you're one-on-one with a shut-in, or for whatever their circumstances may be, to be able to have that special time to serve communion, and hope that you're bringing St. Mary's to them in their kitchen at their table. That too is very, very moving. And I always walked away thanking the Lord that I was able to have that privilege.
Thank you so much, Marilyn.
I know, sometimes I get very emotional. Singing Silent Night will do it, or
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
Me too.
Yeah, and it's just, oh, how great thou art, or Amazing Grace, those three. But there's many other times throughout services at St. Mary's that you just know the Lord is with us so much.
Yeah.
So do you still have to have a license to be a LEM?
So we do, yeah. So the process for licensing is getting the training, and then getting the Safe Church training as well. And the diocese officially, they print certificates. You actually get a certificate with your name on it that says you're a licensed lay Eucharistic minister. We haven't always necessarily had to have that, or especially if someone is new and there hasn't been a training for a while, you can certainly serve without a specific license. But the nice thing about the license is the intention of it is not to exclude people, but really to lift up the importance of lay ministry, and to say, this work is really critical, and people are bringing to it not just their time, but their skill and their heart, and this is a ministry of the church. There are also other things that you can be licensed for. So you can be licensed to be a lay preacher, which Jim Rawls is. He's got the certificate from the diocese and everything, which is why he preaches. And so that's one that's not as common. The other one is lay worship leader. And we have folks who've been Liz, yourself, and others, Robert Bennett and Nancy and others who have led our noonday prayer services. And occasionally we'll have evening prayer for the Saturday nights, back when we were meeting in person. And I know Rob Seamus would lead that sometimes, and I think Ted Megdal. So folks that are kind of carrying that leadership role of the service in the absence of a clergy person, they can be licensed for that ministry as well. So yeah, I would love to see us use those licenses, because not because, you know, people need to check boxes, but because it really is, I think, a sense of, you know, saying, yes, you've been called and trained, and this ministry that you're doing is important.
I know the last time I was on vestry, I was head of lectors, lay ministers, and it was this one year I was to find new lay ministers and to find lectors. And it was really, in a way, challenging, but in another way, I mean, it was such a privilege to look at folks and to talk and ask different individuals, would you consider being a lay minister? And this is what's involved. And they always would say, I will pray on that. And when that showed me that that's how special that being a lay minister is. And some came back and said, no, not at this time. And others, like Jenny, he did. And it really is special, very, very special.
So I have a question. Does Sharon hold the certificates or the licenses so that you're aware of how long they're good?
Yes. Yeah, she keeps the records, like for the Safe Church training and all of that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I asked just because I remember deanery convocation that was up at Grace in the spring a couple years ago. I guess more than a couple at this point. And all of a sudden they're like, Liz, can you do the Eucharistic ministry? And I'm like, but I'm not licensed. And they're like, it's okay, I just can't do it. And I was like, I felt like I was doing such a bad thing. It was so like, I can't do this.
Yes. Yeah, I suppose that license gives, you know, because we use the word for like a car license, where like, you know, it's breaking the law if you don't have a license to do that. Whereas I think these licenses are more to empower lay ministry rather than restrict it.
I don't know what the terms are on the licenses. I know I was licensed to begin with. I was Stephen's first LEM. But I don't remember ever being relicensed.
Yeah.
2 or 3 years. It's not long. My memory.
Well, Safe Church is like 3 years, isn't it?
Right.
It is 3 years. Yeah. I'm sure once the pandemic's over, we're all going to be due to to re-up. We'll do a massive relicensing, retraining, and all the different things.
All right.
Yeah. Great. Any more questions for our panelists?
I'm guessing that there's no acolyte service at 8 o'clock or 5:30. Who does the lighting of the candles?
The LEMs.
Yeah, the LEMs do, and at the 5:30 service too. The Eucharistic minister will help in distributing communion, as well as any other things that I've forgotten to do, handing me things if Don's not there, all that.
Like when I've been verger, I've helped. And I mean, that's kind of the verger's job also, is to overlook and make sure everything gets taken care of or covered. So. It's kind of funny, like 8 o'clock service, say the LEM gets there just right before they have to robe, then I as verger will go light the candles, because everyone, the few that are back in the pews, you can hear them kind of, the candles aren't lit, we can't have the service. And they too won't leave until those candles are put out.
Don and I joked one time, we thought, let's just leave them lit and see how long people will stay.
I know Father John has told people, it doesn't say anywhere in the rubrics or anywhere that you have to stay stationary until those candles are put out. That's just how they're raised or what they're used to. So.
And I remember Father Frank would be like, okay, light them during, put them out during the recessional hymn, and don't wait until afterwards for a postlude. You want to put them out during the recessional so that everybody can get out of here.
I was chastised pretty good about not getting those candles out by a member of our church. Yes. If you see us run and sprint up there trying to, that's why. We're all scared now.
One of the things I liked about being a LEM, it forced me to attend all of the services at least once in a while. Because we would draw having to do Saturdays about every 2 months. We had to do an 8 o'clock. And so that we ended up attending all 3 services. And so we got to know all of the parishioners. Why I never did it on my own, I don't know. But as a LEM, when it was assigned, okay, I did it and went.
That's a great point, Dick. Thank you.
All right.
Any other
Thank you,
questions?
everyone. This is good.
Thank you, guys. I learned a lot
All right,
today, and
thank
I'm
you.
glad to hear about the training.